Welcome to Gaia Community. We are a pagan, earth-based Unitarian Universalist congregation meeting here every week for ritual, classes, workshops, bardic circles, or forums, with the social time beginning at 3:30. I am Susi Matthews, your MC for today's second patron selection ritual, assisted by Devin Scrogum doing tech. Our ritualists presenting patron candidates today are Barbara Griggs representing Enki, Jamie Peters representing Athena, and Erin Scrogum representing the Morrigan. Now would be the time to please silence your beepy things so as not to disturb the ritual and to allow you to be fully present today for today's activities. After the chalice lighting, we ask that the persons participating online to mute themselves. The chalice lighting is adapted from This Sacred Space by Cheryl Bach. It's call and response, and your response will be, we gather together. Would you repeat that? We gather together. And it will be obvious when you need to say that. Your response is, in this sacred space. I messed that up.
In this sacred space.
We gather together in this sacred space. Let us be still in the quiet in this sacred space. Let us be still, let our hearts be open as a butterfly's wings in this sacred space. May the glow of this light shine upon us.
In this sacred space.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
And now we honor our this year's patron, Prometheus, who brings us the light, who helped to create us, who gives us the mastery of skills that we need in order to do our daily work. Hail Prometheus.
Hail Prometheus.
Welcome to week 2 of the Community Patron Selection Festival. Gaia Community has been annually selecting the Patron of the Year since 2003, when we first learned of the ancient Egyptian practice of temples vying with each other each year for their deity to become the city's patron. This is the second Sunday of presenting candidates for the next year. We will be experiencing 3 nominees today for next year's patron. Today, we will be hearing from the temples of Enki, Athena, and the Morrigan. We'll be able to present some questions to the candidates' temples following their presentation. Following all 3 Sundays of rituals, we'll have an online election using ranked choice voting to select our community's patron for the coming year. Our ritual will begin with a grounding, followed by a trance journey to co-create the temple of the many powers in our space. We will then visit the temples of today's 3 patron candidates. After listening to their advocates, we'll return to the present space and conclude with announcements, an offering, and our standard closing. Let us begin. Before we are taken to the temple of all powers, where all beings dwell, I invite you to take this time to check in with yourself. Begin with a deep breath and another, and another. As you breathe slowly and deeply, consider, how do I feel today? What values matter to me? What am I seeking in matters of spiritual kinship? What needs do I seek to have fulfilled by this community? Which values and works put forward by powers do I think will best help Gaia Community become a place that will serve those needs? As you consider these points, Know that your needs are valued, and this selection process has as its goals the meeting of the most spiritual needs of the most members. The selection process will in no way require any member or attendee to adopt a personal patron relationship with any of the powers introduced or selected. As with all of our rites, you are invited to participate at the level you are comfortable with. Keeping your stewardship of self and belief in the good of others forward in your mind, I invite you to settle into a comfortable position. I invite you to focus on the flame in the chalice. Breathe deeply and watch that single point of light as it moves and dances. Let it grow, filling all of your attention, becoming the single most important thing. Let it burn away any distractions or concerns, brightening and fulfilling your awareness. Let yourself begin to sense the sacredness of the space around you, the inherent sacredness of all space upon the earth. In this space, we will build a temple of our thoughts, intentions, imaginings, and will. We will construct around us the temple of many powers, a place you may have visited before, or may be visiting today for the first time. Allow your inner eye to see this temple taking shape around us. Allow your inner ear to hear its sounds. We are building this temple together. You are invited to share your vision with the group. And we ask that when someone calls out some truth about this temple we are building together, that you weave that into your visualization, strengthening the space around us. What you see when you look at this temple we are building around us. Notice its architecture, the materials of its construction, its layout, its color. What is here inside the temple? What detail do you notice? What expression of artistry? What do you see that lets you know this is a sacred space? What do you see that tells you there is power here, that there is magic here, that the divine is with us? What do you hear inside this temple? What sounds come to you? What music? What devotions? What do you hear that lets you know others are here with you in this space? What do you hear that tells you this place is holy? What do you feel when you are standing inside this temple? What emotions come to you? By this shared construction, we establish our sacred space, our place of power and protection, our connection to the many worlds and ways of worship. Today, we will hear from Enki by Barbara, from Athena by Jamie, from the Morrigan by Erin. First, we will hear from Barbara.
Healing, virility, fertility, creativity, and art. Evidence of worship of Enki has been found stretching from southern Iraq to the Levantine coast. He's mentioned in the earliest extant cuneiform inscriptions throughout the region, and he was prominent from the 3rd millennium down to the Hellenistic period. Enki was characterized as the lord of the groundwater located within the earth. In one epic, Abzu, the begetter of the gods, is inert and sleepy. He finds his peace disturbed by the younger gods. So he sets out to destroy them. The younger gods chose his grandson Enki to represent them. Enki put a spell on Abzu, casting him into a deep sleep and confined him deep underground. Enki subsequently set up his home in the depths of the Abzu. And the Abzu is the word in Sumerian for the groundwater. In the story of Enki and Ninhursag, Enki is living with his wife in the paradise of Dilmun, where the raven uttered no cries. The lion killed not, the wolf snatched not the lamb. Unknown was the kid-killing dog. Unknown was the grain-devouring boar. However, Dilmun had no water. Enki heard the cries of its goddess, Ninsikil, and ordered the sun god Utu to bring fresh water from the earth for Dilmun. As a result, Dilmun drinks the water of abundance. Her wells of bitter water, behold, there become wells of good water. Her fields and farms produced crops and grain. Her city, behold, it has become the house of the banks and keys of the land. Dilmun may refer to the area where the fresh waters of the Arabian aquifer mingle with the salt waters of the Persian Gulf. This mingling of the waters was known in Sumerian as Namu and was identified as the mother of Enki. When the younger generation of gods got tired of being the ones that had to keep creation running, Namu brought the tears of the gods to Enki, saying, "Oh, my son, arise from your sleep, from your bed. Work that which is wise. fashion servants for the gods who may produce their bread. Enki then advised that they create beings out of clay and blood. Enki assembled a team of divinities to help him, creating a host of goodly and princely fashioners. The servants they produced out of clay and blood were the humans. At first, these people were exactly what the gods had hoped for. But as they grew in number, they became louder, which again disturbed the sleepiness that seems characteristic of these deities. Their constant noise disturbed the sleep of Enlil, the king of the gods, and distracted him from both his daily tasks and his leisure. So he decided to cut down the population through a series of plagues. He sent a drought, then pestilence, then famine. Each time, the humans appealed to Enki, and he offered them guidance on how to return the earth to balance and productivity, and their communities to full health. Enki's interest in humanity continued. Once, he intervened in conflict among different peoples by magically causing all humans to speak the same language, sort of a reversal of the Tower of Babel story. Now, Enki sowed some serious wild oats. He had sex not only with his wife, Ninhursag, but also their daughter, and then his granddaughter, who was also his daughter. When he tried to seduce his great-granddaughter, who was also his daughter, see how that works. She consulted Ninhursag what to do, and she was able to tell her how to avoid him. In some versions of this myth, eventually Ninhursag brings forth gods of healing for every part of the body, but that's a story for another day. Throughout this mythos, we see the goddesses seem to have equal powers to male gods. Enki's daughter, Inanna, outsmarted her father when he was drunk, and as a result, she became the keeper of all the maize. The maize were considered to be all of the qualities of life, including such attributes as kingship, shepherdship, ladyship, third gendership, including specifically genderqueer entertainers who served Inanna, eldership, heroship, lamentation and rejoicing of the heart, strife and peace, various crafts, roles, and musical instruments. Hundreds of aspects of life were enumerated as the maize. But despite this rivalry, when Inanna descended to the underworld, she told her servant, Ninshubur, to get help from Anu, Enlil, or Enki if she didn't come back in 3 days. When Inanna didn't return, Ninshubur approached Anu and Enlil, who declined to help. But Enki immediately expressed concern and dispatched 2 sexless beings to rescue and revive her. This is one example of androgynous beings who played an important part in many aspects of early religious ritual. Enki's temple was in the form of a ziggurat with a pool of fresh water in front of it. An excavation has found numerous carp bones. Carp are what are shown in the twin streams here that flow into the shoulders of Enki. The waters, there's carp flowing upstream with them. Many subsequent Sumerian temples were built with the pool of fresh water. In fact, fresh water is kind of a thing in religion down to the present day. While many stories about Enki have been handed down to us, there doesn't seem to be much written about how his worship has been conducted, other than the use of water and perhaps eating a lot of fish. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, anticipating a question, Enki, a deity within an entire pantheon with many complex relationships and contradictory stories, is not the same being as Enkidu, an archetypal wild man or primitive man who is the enemy and later the friend of Gilgamesh. Enki does appear in that epic, but separately as the deity. Adopting Enki as our patron for the year gives us an opportunity to study an ancient pantheon and system of worship that few of us are familiar with. As the god of craft and creativity, we would be encouraged to do more work with our hands and nurture our individual and our group creativity. Enki was specifically the god of underground fresh water, such as the aquifer. And we here on the Kansas and Missouri border could really use some help with that. As a god who intervened in humanity's plight, often by giving wise counsel as to what action to take, we could seek his intervention, in particular in actions to bring water where the earth needs it. Though something of a trickster and hardly a perfect role model, Enki also stands as a deity who can forgive and forget and move on. As a god who created a special class of being who were not restrained to a gender binary, Enki might support us in standing with and standing up for and being with and being for people in our own time who are not represented by duality. Other questions? So what you're asking is, how would we perform worship? That's where creativity is going to come in. I have not found a lot of documentation other than the carp bones about what the worship was like. We're going to probably have to seek personal gnosis about that. Fish fries. Fish fries? Hey. Oh, somebody thought of that. Any other questions? We'll move the mic next time. Thank you.
Okay, and next we will move to Athena.
Pallas Athena Tea, Matea Matos Castenus, Sepore mei Simen, Hirus Usai Soidene. Pallas Athena Tea, Matea Matos Castenus, Sepore mei Simen, Hirus Usai Soidene. 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 Akue. Akue. Makari Zea Tumen. Amen Sophia Didu. Amen singing duae. Makarte Akue. Makari Zea Tumen. Amen Sophia Didu. Amen singing duae. Makarte Akue. Makarte Akue. Makarte Akue. Makarte Akue. Makarte Akue. 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 Hirin sinintus lidus, aepanos phanoien, lambrino teste hoden, melanthanon poiuntes. Hirin sinintus lidus, aepanos phanoien, lambrino teste hoden, melanthanon poiuntes. Melanthanon poiuntes. Melanthanon poiuntes. Melanthanon poiuntes. Melanthanon poiuntes. Akue. Akue.
We call to Pallas Athena, Glaukopis, Gorgolaphos, daughter of Zeus, Athena who holds the aegis, Athena Pardos, maiden. Athena Erema, who defends home and country, who helps us to protect ourselves in war and make the most of peace. Athena Polius of the city, who inspires just laws and civil intercourse. Our communities thrive under your influence. Athena Machanites, the contriver, who favors those who use cunning and wits to work through problems and determine when it is necessary to fight. Athena Sithenius, the strong, whose favor shone upon Heracles and Odysseus, great heroes. Athena Pronoia, who inspires us to look ahead and plan our course to victory. Athena, silver-eyed and Gorgon-crusted, lend us discernment as we choose a patron for our community. Hail Athena!
Hail Athena.
So many of you have probably heard plenty about Athena. She's the goddess of just war. She's the patron of Athens. She appreciates human resourcefulness and ingenuity in handicrafts and skills, and also in our skills involving other people. Sometimes she's pictured with Nike, the goddess of victory, and she's often depicted by an owl, as you can see up here. And if you've ever read the Odyssey, Athena is basically the goddess who said, maybe Odysseus can come home. We've had Athena as a patron before, way back in the 2011-2012 year. Athena was our patron as we moved from Smooch to where we are now. Her guidance helped us with negotiations and strategies for an efficient move. When we worked with her, we also did difficult work, like learning how to welcome a possibly hostile stranger and working with our not-so-beloved ancestors. As we once again find ourselves moving and as we hope to attract new folks, it seems appropriate to work with her again. Additionally, the world we live in continues to be a place of massive injustices, and I'm sure you can name a dozen off the top of your head. And Athena will call on us to be focused on ways to minimize them. We'll write to our elected leaders to push for legislation that protects the marginalized and participate in the greater community, joining others in providing help and healing. For example, we can join Smooch in their efforts to bring food and necessary items to those struggling to buy groceries. Or we can work with All Souls, who recently hosted a drag queen story hour. Athena can help us plan for all the big events are centered around saying goodbye to the space we're in and saying hello to our new space. She can encourage us to follow through on promises to ensure our words become actions. I urge you to consider her in choosing our next patron. Thank you, Athena, for joining me and giving me the inspiration to say those things that I said.
And now we will visit with Morrigan.
Hi. I wasn't expecting you so soon. I know you had other people. So I am a priestess of the Morrigan, and I was just finishing my rite. So if you bear with me, I'm going to finish that because Morrigan likes it when you finish things. So I'm going to finish that, and then I'll speak to you and tell you why you should choose her as your patron. Peace to the sky, sky to the earth, earth and sky, strength, each a cup very full, a fullness of honey mead to fullness. Summer and winter, spears upon shields, shields upon fists, forts fierce for battle, strongholds of earth, rights of descendants, woods full of stags, horns of cattle, encircling palisades, massed upon trees, heavy with growth, wealth for children, children strong in learning, young born from cows, cows from the earth womb, mold molded from the earth womb, molded through song. Your growth in strength, warriors for the land, land strongholds secure, tales told in poetry, peace to the sky, be it 9 times eternal. The words I just spoke were a prophecy of the Morrigans. Now, the Morrigan herself, is it one goddess? Some say. Is it 3? Some say that of the Morrigan. Is it many? Some say that of the Morrigan. The truth is, she doesn't really care. It's all the same to her. 1, 3, many. However your mind needs to understand her, that's the way you understand her. The Morrigan is a seer of the future. This prophecy that she gave is in a time where there was great battles in Ireland. And I hope to tell you more of those stories when the Morrigan is your patron. Of these battles, she foresaw peace. She was, yes, a warrior goddess, a goddess of warrior and battle for peace. Because there cannot be peace without struggle. And where there's struggle, you're trying to find peace. Which is why I have black on this side and white on this side. I have battle and strength. And I have peace and goodness. And my lovely fire to burn everything all bad away. A goddess of multitude. She really encompasses many things. Death, life, life, death. For there to be life, there must be death, something to help plants grow. And for there to be a death, there, of course, had to be something alive. So life and death are just a cycle. And understanding everything that the Morrigan sees in the future. I suppose her prophecies are more of a letting everyone know exactly what's going to happen. Because we all are alive. We're all going to die. She prophesies, after this battle, you will have lots of food. You will have abundance in the trees. They will be heavy with fruit. They will have all this wonderful stuff. And for now, that's going to change. So when we call upon the Morrigan, we're calling for things to continue as they have with abundance. We would like abundance. We would like, you would call on her for strength, abundance, for children to be happy. And then you would also call on the Morrigan for when their time is done, for when they are not necessarily dead, but they have changed. As with the tarot, the death card does not mean death. It means change. So she's definitely a goddess of change. If we were to have Morrigan with us, expect poetry and song and tales and magic. For she is a great sorceress, and she prefers it when you do magic. She's a goddess of action, and wants her followers to do things. We don't go out and fight battles. Some people do, though, right? We have a military. Some people do go out and fight battles. Most of us in this congregation and this city, we're not battling with spears. We are in a battle for social justice, however. And the Morrigan really is a goddess who wants justice for the community. She's not so much, I want justice for myself. She is I want justice for the greater good. I want justice for the downtrodden, for the houseless, for the animals who can't take care of themselves, for the dead who definitely can't take care of themselves because they're not corporately here. So she would expect from us to be active in our social justice, to be helping raise funds for military, making families, providing families with toys while their loved ones are overseas, or something like volunteering at a animal shelter. Especially the animal shelter has corbettes and animals that you normally don't think of. You think cats, dogs. Well, it's very much all animals, really. all of your snakes and your guinea pigs and your everything else that's in an animal shape. Your rats, your mice, ferrets. Another really good thing for us to do to honor Morrigan would be to continue cleaning up Elmwood Cemetery. We started that, and the congregation started that as when the patron was the mighty Devin. The Morrigan would find this wonderful if we kept attending to our ancestors by blood. So that is what I have. I could tell you lots and lots of stories, and I could tell you stories. The Morrigan likes stories and poems, and would really prefer people to worship her the way that they can commemorate the good deeds everyone has done in song. So please choose her as our Gaia Community's patron. All right. One thing I wanted to say to you is when you please come take mead and don't let me hand it to you. If you do not wish to partake of mead, and this is perfectly fine, please hold it to your head and acknowledge that it comes from Ireland, where the Morrigan comes from as well. This is Irish mead.
Now, before we close, are there any questions for any of the patron candidates?
This is actually a question for all three temples, because all three temples are speaking on behalf of powers that do a lot of stuff. Is there anything that your power doesn't do that we should avoid doing if we spend a year with them?
I'd say there's stuff Enki did that we should avoid doing, rather than the other way around. Which I referred to, but did not go into all the detail. Enki was definitely a handy power of many, many attributes. I do note that Enki's doing was almost always giving good advice that people had to do. So I would not be praying to Enki to fix stuff. I would be asking Enki to tell us what we need to do to fix stuff. That's about my things.
You might remember the story of Arachne who got really, 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 really arrogant about her skills in spinning and weaving. So we'll need to keep a check on our hubris. This is a frequent theme in Greek myth where people don't pay attention to the things that they're saying. They're like, I'm better than the gods at this, and then they get in trouble. So something we'll have to watch for.
I do not think the Morrigan should ever be called for love. I don't mean sex, because sex magic is definitely in her. But I mean the really, really love, which I can't imagine that a congregation would do. It's not, it's different from self-love. Self-love is a totally different thing. But yeah, all I could think of, she really encompasses everything. Love that.
Now we may return from the Temple of Many Powers. Please return your attention to the flame and the chalice, that one bright point of light in the center of our circle or on your home altar. Allow that flame once again to become the point of your awareness, to grow brighter in your mind's eye until you feel the temple fading away around you, until you lose sight of its wonders, until there is just that one dancing flame filling your mind's eye. Then, taking a deep breath, allow yourself to retreat from that flame, to let it dwindle back to its modest proportions, and to slowly return to the everyday world. Stretch your body, wiggle your toes, and be present to our everyday world. We may again journey to the Temple of Many Powers, but that will be a story for another day. Now, do we have announcements for upcoming events?
We have a choice to make about next Sunday. Next Sunday's ritual is the Sharing Our Spirits for the 4th of July. Traditionally, we don't see a lot of people, especially at Sharing Our Spirits in general, or especially for the 4th of July. And furthermore, there may not be a ritualist available to facilitate it, which would prevent it being online, being in person. And one of the things that Matt has learned in his various conferences that he's done with the UUA is that small congregations need to give themselves permission to take a week off. So I feel like there's a pretty decent number of us here today, especially a decent number of ritualists, who can say whether or not they think this is a good idea. I am for the idea of taking a week off when there's a real chance that nobody will come. But I'm not the only voice, and I don't make the decision.
I would support this decision as a ritualist. I think it's time for us to take a week off and relax and recoup and be ready to go again for the following week, which is our third ritual selection, which will be Kitty with Ninshaber, Susie with Ganesha, Matt with Giannis, with tech by David, and MC Barbara. So are there any other thoughts on this?
I'll say the other part of what I learned at the Mid-America Regional Meetup for leaders in small congregations, which is, if you are looking for a UU service to go to, both All Souls and Shawnee Mission UU will have their regular Sunday services. Please get your UU through them, and we'll see you again on the 9th.
That sounds lovely. There are no other announcements.
All right. Okay, so if we wish to form a sacred amoeba, we can do our standard Gaia closing. And I would like to do long form if we could. I think we can do this all together. Uh-huh. By the earth that is her body, and the grove that is his home, by the air that is her breath, and the music of his song, by the fire of her bright spirit, and the heat of his passion, by the waters of her living womb, and the dew that is his tears. This circle is open but unbroken. May the peace of the goddess fall on our hearts, and the dance of the gods enliven our days, and may we care for the earth and each other, because our lives depend on it. May we meet, may we part, and merry meet again. Woo-hoo! Thank you, everybody.